longevity, a topic that we're all really, really interested in, I guess, these days. So we have the longevity blueprint, wellness practices for a healthier life. I think the headline says everything, and I'm going to just invite my panelists on stage. I'm going to start with the lovely lady, Dr. Manveer Bhatia, senior neurologist, electrophysiologist, and sleep specialist. And we all know the most important thing for wellness, beauty, and everything is sleep. So, Manveer, can we have you on stage, please? So, with over 30 years of experience as a senior neurologist and sleep specialist, and as the director of Neurology Sleep Center in New Delhi, her pioneering work in sleep medicine and neurology has transformed countless lives. Her book, The Sleep Solution, I think we all need to have it. Thank you, Manveer, for being with us. Please have a seat. Next, we have Gaurav Gupta, the guy who created waves yesterday with his Gabbit and asked everybody, what's your Gabbit? We'll ask you that question also very soon. So huge welcome, Gaurav. He's the founder and CEO of Gabbit, an innovative health tech platform that integrates personalized meal plans, fitness solutions, high tech. So your forward-thinking approach to holistic wellness is truly inspiring for all of us. And I think we all need to have this ring. Yeah. Next, I'm going to invite Dr. Tenzing Soga-Rippa. He's a Tibetan medicine expert, Six Senses Vana. And I myself was in Vana a couple of months back, and he was my doctor there. And well, I really gained a lot from it. He's a trained wellness expert in Soga-Rippa at the Six Senses Vana. He has been a Soga-Rippa specialist, wellness consultant, and practitioner of Soga-Rippa at Six Senses Vana since April 2016. And guys, if you haven't been to Vana, you don't know what you're missing. Then I have Nischint Singh, my partner in crime on this Wellfest since day one. Yes, a huge round of applause to Nishi. Nischint's journey from a young girl battling a debilitating spinal injury. It definitely doesn't look like that at all. So she's written this book, I Met God on the Sofa. I think I should have had a sofa here. Here we have the chairs. So thank you, Nischint, for always being with us. Next we have Kitty Kalra, my dear Pilates expert and, well, a dear friend. So Kitty is a Scott Pilates expert, life coach, positive psychology coach, and a renowned celebrity fitness expert. Thank you for being with us. Now we have our lovely, lovely lady who's coming all the way from Mumbai to be with us, Anshuka Parwani. Where are you, Anshuka? Why can't I see you? Oh, there she comes, the gorgeous lady. She's the founder of Anshuka Yoga, a wellness coach and Bollywood's favorite yogini in town. Trusted by celebrities like Deepika Padukone, Kareena Kapoor, Alia Bhatt, Ananya Pandey. Well, the list just goes on. Anshuka, can we keep you in Delhi only? Yeah, great. So she's shifted to Delhi, guys. So, okay. Let me start with asking a question to you, Anshuka. In the modern age of fast-paced lifestyles and constant stress, how do you think yoga can support mental clarity?
So good morning, everybody, and thank you, Pari. And quickly, I think yoga is about really connecting mind, body with your breath and not letting your actually having that control over your breath, because once you really have control and understand what your breath is doing and tapping into the right parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and relax, and fight or flight is the opposite, which we are really always, like as women and as working women or otherwise, we are always in that fight and flight mode, very masculine, very alpha. So this really helps you to tap into that. And also cortisol as you age, right? Science, there's data that's proved that when you do a lot of yoga practices, which is your pranayam, your mindfulness, your meditation, your cortisol levels do decrease over time. And that is really, really important as you grow older, which helps in improving your emotional resilience and your mental clarity. So it's really a mixture. It's not just about the physical asana. That's just like a tool to connect your mind, body, and otherwise.
Fantastic. And Dr. Tenzing, tell us something about how Tibetan medicine plays a role in longevity.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me here, and good morning to all. So basically, in Tibetan medicine or Sowa Rigpa, basically Sowa Rigpa means it's a healing science. And in Tibetan medicine, more than 1500 years ago, the right practices and the right techniques were already documented in Tibetan medicine 1500 years ago. And especially in Tibetan medicine, our main concept or the philosophy really aligns with the longevity practice. Because in Tibetan medicine or Sowa Rigpa, our main focus or aim is interdependent or interconnection. So it's very holistic in nature. So basically, we follow the concept of Kala Chakra. As you know, Kala means time and Chakra means wheel. So it's a time of wheel or a wheel of time. So infinite wheel of time. So if we can balance the macrocosmic five elements, which are space, wind, fire, earth, and water, and also the microcosmic elements, which are within our own body, the moment we are conceived into the mother's womb. So these five elements, microcosmic, which are constituted in our body, and the five macrocosmic elements, which are in the environment, which we gain through our diet, lifestyle, stress. So if we are able to align and make a harmony between these two macrocosmic and microcosmic element, we can really, through the practice of diet, lifestyle, and there are many Tibetan meditation techniques, yoga practices in Tibetan medicine, so we can really be able to prolong our longevity, and also it can slow down our aging process. So that is the whole concept. Thank you.
So, we all know everybody is talking about the single most important thing for longevity is sleep. And how do you think sleep actually, I mean, everybody talks about it, but how do you think sleep actually impacts on longevity?
So if we were to look at all the major disorders or diseases which affect us as we grow older, whether it is metabolic diseases, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer, depression, things like that, I would say sleep or good sleep is like a foundation or a balm for all those, in just a very simple terms. That if we have enough data from millions of patients now that sleep and lifespan are very closely related. So if you get your ideal quantity of sleep, that's roughly for an adult is about 7 to 8.5 hours. Less than 6 are called short sleepers. So they are at risk of what is called as all-cause mortality. In simple terms, death from all causes. And if you sleep more than 9 hours, you are at least 20 to 30% again at risk for all-cause mortality.
Oh my God, I sleep 10 hours.
So no, that's because sometimes you sleep. So I think it's very well now considered that it's a big factor for. Another thing I want to just add before I cut is that, so one is lifespan. The second big concept is health span. So I think we all need to ask ourselves that where do we see ourselves in the last 10 years of our lifespan? So over the years, the lifespan has increased. The health span is not keeping pace. So that's why we will have a population, nation, society of really impaired people. I don't want to use the good word. So, and this is especially concerned for the brain. So when we go deeper into it, we'll talk about the relationship of sleep with the brain. So basically sleep is good for physical health, repair, emotional balance, mental, cognitive abilities. So it's a big considered. Cardiovascular health, hormones, what we eat, when we eat, why we eat is all considered from the brain.
So, you've talked about the quantity of sleep. Tell us about the quality of sleep.
Yeah, so if we were to talk about sleep, now we understand it a lot more because we are also able to look at the brain during sleep by numerous imaging techniques. There are also numerous experiments which have been done on different things. So coming to the dimensions of sleep. So quantity is easy to understand. So if in an audience like this, I would ask, let's say people who sleep less than 7 hours. If people could lift their hands up. So see, we have maybe 10% of people who are sleeping less than 7. Yeah, so that means that you are short sleepers. So we need to figure out why. So that's quantity. But let's ask another question. How do you feel when you wake up in the morning? How many feel good and rested? So again, there are so many who are saying they are not. So that is not matching the number. So that means they're getting their quantity but not getting their quality. So that means they're not feeling rested. Third dimension is timing of sleep. So that timing is becoming a big issue. So people have realized that you need 7 hours, 8 hours. So they will sleep at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., add 7 hours, get up at noon. But this timing is a big thing. So because we have a master clock, we have numerous body clocks, they all need to synchronize. If we don't, we are going to get all these diseases that I just mentioned.
Wow, that's scary, guys. You all need to sleep well and the
time.
right quantity and on time. So, Nishi, you worked with many individuals who are battling serious health issues.
Yes.
How does yoga address these challenges?
First of all, thank you, Parinita, for having me here once again. It's always good to be with you.
Well, you're part of us, so.
Yes, so over the 25 years that I worked with people, I have, come across people with various diseases, from paralysis, cancer, which is a very big thing today. And it's not only about yoga. Let me tell you that it's about mind as well. So adding to Anushka, right? Anshuka. So, I'm going to tell you a bit about yoga, how it actually started. Yoga, the word yuj actually means syncing yourself with your own self, which is your own pran. So when I teach yoga to my girls, and some of them are here, I'm actually considered a very strict teacher, and they're very scared of me because phones are switched off and connect to yourself. And because that whole connection is what is going to repair your body. I think doctor's going to agree with me. Your cells, yes, do repair at night. But there is something what we call DNA engineering, which is being talked about everywhere today, which I'm incorporating a lot now in my classes, which is a lot to do with going into your DNA, visualizing, affirming. So when they're doing that pranayam, when they're connecting themselves, I'm actually telling them to visualize a repairing happening in them. And you'll be surprised, I work with a lot of cancer patients. And I've actually seen them surface through that cancer so beautifully. The chemo never affects them. They don't go through the depression that they've gone through when they have the hair losses or when they have those down moments. It is, it's the biggest medicine for them. And they actually tell me, Nishi, when we're in hospital, we actually do our pranayam. We are actually connecting to ourselves and doing that visual, that image that we are perfect people. So more than the yoga, I feel it's been, working with their mind through connecting to themselves.
So, Kitty, tell me, what do you think is the connection between physical movement and mental well-being? She's just talked about it, but can you elaborate a bit more from the Pilates point of view?
Yeah, thank you again for having me here as always. So what just Nishi said and what just Anshuka said and Dr. Manveer and Dr. Tenzing, everything is about physical fitness today. And you might be sleeping on time, like Dr. Manveer says, the quality of sleep might be good, your nutrition might be on point, you might be eating clean, organic, lifting weights, doing everything. And you might be chemically and physically balanced. Yet, if you're not emotionally and mentally balanced, you'll be back to square one. Just like we need to eat every day for our body, we need to learn to train our mind every day to stay on top of the game, because everything is the mental game. It's not just about looking good on the outside or having a number. A mental game is much beyond physical fitness, and that's where we need to be. And a lot of us don't understand, but our mental game is a collection of our thoughts and the habits that we have. What are your thoughts like? Are they powerful? Are they fearful? Are they of self-worth or they're of self-doubt? Are they negative or positive? Everything will have an impact on your physical health if you're mentally not there. And that's why we all need to actually, what Nishi is saying, a pranayam, it's my go-to thing, the breathing, the meditation, everything, But yes, it can be overwhelming for everybody. Everybody doesn't know how to meditate. It's scary. You cannot, a lot of us have an issue of sitting with our own selves. The biggest challenge I think we all face, and I see that physical fitness, it's very easy. I have clients who come for Pilates to me, and it's easy to train them. Well, people say Pilates sounds tough, it's not so challenging, but of course, it's a mind body connection. Pilates is all about your breath and engaging your ab muscles or the core. That's why it's very stabilizing. And I mean, of course, yoga, I love yoga. I've never given it up in the past. I don't want to say that, but I'm 52 and I've been doing yoga for 50 years probably, or maybe 45 years. But Pilates is mind body connection. You have to be present in the game with your breath, otherwise, you get injuries with Pilates. You could fall off the reformer. So it's a mind game. If you're not connected to it, you're not healthy enough. But what we all feel, we don't have the time to center ourselves. If you're not centered, which is all about yourself, which is about your inner strength, the physical fitness is not gonna help you. You will soon go back to, being physically not so active, not a happy soul, if you're not mentally connected. So you've got to work on your mental game. And, well, we could continue, but I want to tell people about how you can be connected even if you can't do meditation and the breath. Since we're at it, I'll just quickly tell you what I do and what works for me in the morning. All we need is just 5 minutes in the morning to play a game. Yes, it's a game. G, gratitude. What were you grateful for yesterday? Take out a pen and a paper and a diary. Just write about what were you grateful for. And no, it doesn't have to be, I have a shelter, I have a car. No, it's beyond that. It's maybe just hot water in your, geyser. It's about the quilt. It's about a friend who just called to check on you. There are so many things if you run it like a movie, and that's how I do it. I run my previous day like a movie, and believe me, start writing 3 things. And honestly, वो 3 things तो खत्म ही हो जाएंगे, आपके 2 पेज भर जाते हैं. When I sit to write my gratitude, which is the G. A, achievements. What you achieved yesterday. It could be something as tiny as starting a meal plan, or just eating a healthy salad that you decided that you're going to start on, or a workout regime. Anything that you're so proud of yourself is going to give you a push on the mental level is your achievement. Number 3, GAM, mindfulness. Again, I said meditation is not for everybody, but what Nishi just said, pranayam. Or just simple breathing. You can do the box breathing, which is a 4-4-4-4, if that works for you, or do a 4-7-8. And remember, the exhale always has to be more than the inhale. That's where the whole toxins or the whole exhalation brings in the calmness. So mindfulness, just do that. Just sit with yourself for maybe 2 minutes, count, do your breath work. Just breathe for 3 counts or 5 counts or 7, 21. I do 21, it's magic. And the last one, envision. What we all know, affirmations, that's my miracle tool. Envision your day, how it's going to be. You might have a meeting with someone important. Send love to that person. See yourself on a good, platform with that person with a good energy exchange. Or maybe some relationship that is bothering you. Send love to that person. Envisioning that whole day, how it'll go, is a very powerful tool. So that's just it. Play that game, and that's how your mental game is really going to be at it.
So Gaurav, it looks to me like they're all talking about Gabbit. Good habits, right? Everybody's talking about Gabbit.
They don't know that, but yeah, they are.
So from your perspective, how can technology, when combined with expert guidance, revolutionize holistic wellness?
Wonderful to be here. Thank you. I think it's a very simple first principle. You only improve what you measure. If you can't measure something, you don't know whether you can improve it, you don't know whether you're improving it. It's very simple. And in today's world, technology has become very easy to use, where you can have a ring like this in your finger, and it can actually track almost anything and everything for you. You don't have to take it out for 24 hours. It's 3 grams in weight. You charge it once in 10 days. It's titanium. And it's a ring. It's fashionable. It comes in different colors, so you feel like you're not wearing something. And it just estimates everything happening in your body. Can you believe that? it's non-invasive. Nothing goes into your body. So, and this is just the beginning. This is just a form factor which is new. But I think what is important is there is technology to be built, but at the same time, you have to base it on fundamentals of health. Otherwise, it won't improve. So, Gabit or good habits. So we said, why should we have two words for such a good thing? So much effort. So we made it into one word. And we said, if we want to use this to improve people's health, how do we do that? We realized, and we dug deep into it, and I think all of you spoke about it in your own way. And when I'm not a doctor, don't come from this field at all. I'm just learning myself. But we realized that there are 4 pillars of health and longevity. Fitness, nutrition, sleep, and stress, or you can call it mindfulness, which is the right thing. And the beautiful part is, one, they're all interconnected. And my mind was blown when it happened to me, and when I researched into it, scientifically they're interconnected. If you actually sleep late or you're awake till late, the fact that you eat junk food is not just you. It is like your brain telling you to eat that kind of food, which gives you that kind of satiation in the night. It's scientifically proven. Skin, healthy skin. Stress has the biggest impact on skin. Cortisol levels have the biggest impact on skin. And if you do fitness well, you sleep better. You sleep better, you do fitness well. You eat better, you do all of these well. Stress just screws up everything in your life. And any goal that you pick up, any goal, think about, so any health goal that you can pick up, which is the health goal that's important to you? Anyone? Any health goal that's important to you? Like, what's your health goal? Any?
Workout, running.
Sorry, no, what's your goal? That's the means to get to the goal. What's your goal? What's the goal important to you? Healthy? Healthy back. Anything else? Fitness, right weight, living longer, healthy skin. People don't say it, but everybody wants it, right? Fitness is scientifically proven. So if you work out every day, especially start and stop, we all take collagen. It doesn't do anything to your body if you don't work out. It can't get absorbed. Your body can make and break collagen when you do HIIT. It's scientifically proven. So fitness has a direct impact on healthy skin. Nutrition has an impact on skin. Stress has an impact on skin. So I think we realized that if you want to build something meaningful, and it was very interesting, when we looked around us, somebody was solving for sleep, somebody was solving for mindfulness, somebody was solving for fitness, somebody is solving for tracking. It's not together. And when it's not together, you can't make sense out of it. So we built a platform which does all of this together. So our wearable tracks all of these 4 pillars and much more. Our plans focus on all these pillars and much more. And what I'm trying to say is that, one, you need to start tracking yourself so you can improve yourself. And secondly, it has to be based on science. But again, last thing I would say is, please do not obsess about the numbers. That should not be a cause of stress. That is defeating the purpose of starting on a journey. Always focus on the trend. If you are at X today, are you at better than X tomorrow, the day after, and just take it from there. I think that is very, very important because I've seen enough people just obsess about it. Some people say, I don't track myself. I don't want to be obsessed about it. Nobody's asking you to be obsessed about it. That's your choice. But at least know where you are today. And by the way, we talked about longevity. So I must tell you, there are 2-3 metrics which are perfectly correlated to longevity. For example, there's a metric called VO2 max. How many people know VO2 max here, by the way? We're talking about longevity. The most correlated metric proven till now to longevity is VO2 max. How many people in this room know VO2 max? Raise your hands. That's the problem. I was about to ask the next question. How many of people know their VO2 max? That's irrelevant right now. Okay. So I'll tell you what VO2 max is. VO2 max is the amount of oxygen capacity that you have to take into your body and process when you're actually working out. The more you can do it, the more longer you will live. With age, it goes down dramatically. So strength workout, Pilates, yoga, better nutrition, playing games or sports, all actually helps in improve VO2 max. So if I can tell you one thing to start tracking, of course there are many other things, but if you're talking about longevity, track your VO2 max, know what it is, and don't obsess about the number, try to improve it. That's what I would say.
My God, that's a lot of information and very useful information. So I'm going to come back to you, Manveer, because I think sleep is so important, and we've all actually agreed on that. what are the common sleep disorders that you feel people face and how can they overcome it?
So, if we were to talk about scientifically, we have about 100 sleep disorders.
Okay.
But if we were to talk about practically, probably we can fit them into 3 types. You know, if I group them into what the patients come and tell us. So, the first one is that I cannot sleep. So, I can't fall asleep, I can't stay asleep, I wake up too early, I have a very bad day. So, this whole group is called as insomnia. How common is insomnia? So, worldwide data and even Indian data to some extent, we have a lot of surveys and stuff which happen. 1/3 of the population at any given time says that I'm not happy with my sleep. And 10 to 11% have what is called as severe insomnia. So, what do we mean by that? And what do they do for that? They will look for sleep aids. So, whether they are sleeping pills, which we are having a big heart problem, just to say one line for those sleeping pills, they are absolutely ruining your memory. So, we are in this age, as I keep mentioning, on this cognitive decline, they are adding to our dementia crisis. So, sleeping pills, alcohol, one tells the other one, I take a drink, you also take, we will, or some substances, etc. So, those have become like sleep aids. So, that's insomnia. Second thing is, I sleep too much.
My problem.
Yours probably is yours like is a sleep debt which is carrying on. So that's a separate sleep. That's a sleep debt that you're accumulating a debt and then one day you'll sleep. So that's called catch-up sleep, which all the youngsters are doing these days. So on the weekdays they sleep 6 hours. On the weekends they sleep 10 hours.
Yes,
so
that's true.
That's a separate thing. We'll have time to talk. So second one is I can't stay awake. So they are sleeping in classrooms, sleeping in meetings. I've had people saying that, I was on this call and I kind of had a snore. So one entity out of that with the snoring is something called as sleep apnea. So which Gaurav talked about a ring. So let's come back to that. So what do we do to measure sleep, or how do we measure sleep, or what have we had till now? Till now we've had what is called as a lab-based system, that you go into a hospital or a center or something and somebody puts sensors all over your body, from your head to your toe almost, you are breathing oxygen, and we record. So in everything in medicine, we have something called as a gold standard. That just means it's the best. So this was the way to measure sleep. Obviously, it's not ideal. There is variability and lots of other issues. So then came the wearables for sleep measurement. So there are wearables, then there are nearables. Now people are putting things by the side of their bed. That guy's also reached out to me. So they have that, they're nearables. Then they are under the mattress, so you don't come into contact with them at all. So all these are there. Then they came that these are, but he rightly pointed out that these are very good for a trend. And also they said that it has become a talking point. A health has become a talking point, sleep has become a talking point. So then there are these rings now. So this is another ring. This ring is a different ring.
This is interesting.
So this is a ring which is almost equivalent to a sleep study. So it's a medical device. What does it do? It can tell you your breathing through the night. What we call as breathing pauses. If I think there's some people in the audience, if somebody or the other has sleep apnea in your family, so we can get an information with this. It can tell you oxygen through the night. It can also tell you something about a REM percentage. So REM is a sleep stage which is very good for memory. So it can tell you that. It can also tell you about your heart rate, etc. So, and how much have you slept? How much have you woken up? But this is a one night. Then you recharge it. You can use it for 2 nights, 3 nights, etc. So it's a medical device. It's not that I buy it. The data comes through the AI again. So that's the second part of the problem, is there's too much sleep. Third is a problem. Shouting, kicking, fighting, throttling that person next to you, all sorts of things. So these are these are real entities. They are less often, but they are there, and they are now markers for something going wrong in the brain. So this is an entity called as RLS. I have people coming to me as old as 70. For 30, 40 years, they've never slept and properly, and they've had sleeping pills, but it is an entity. So in short, we have these couple of sleep disorders. I can't stay asleep. I'm too sleepy. There's very loud snoring, which is causing something called as a sleep divorce. You heard that term? Has anybody heard that term?
No, but it's an interesting term.
So, separate bedrooms. Yeah, but that's increasing. I mean, if there was a survey of that, like the numbers which are going up for that is very high. So people are just not able. And now the children are telling the father also or the mother, okay, please get into a separate room. So this is creating, but I mean, we can laugh, but it creates an impact on the relationships and emotional things. So I think that's the snoring part. So that needs to be started. So we have now measures to test it, but we should do something about it.
Follow-up question can I ask?
Yeah.
Which of these are the top two in prevalence?
Top two is insomnia and sleep apnea. So insomnia is the commonest, but insomnia doesn't surface so much because there's so many remedies. So everybody has tried ashwagandha, chamomile tea, magnesium, vitamin D, all that. And snoring is, again, people have tried, put up to the point of putting ghee, badam oil.
Machine also that you-
No, machines are the ones that we give. Nasal strips, blocks, everything. So self-remedies are very...
The only thing I'll add is, and I think people don't realize this, people think having alcohol puts them to sleep. It might put you to sleep, but the quality of sleep is really bad.
That's true.
And by the way, you're not supposed to, if you want a good night's sleep, a good quality sleep, like good REM sleep, good light sleep, good deep sleep, you're not supposed to consume alcohol at least 12 hours before you sleep. No, I'm telling you. So that's why drink on brunches, but not on parties. Okay?
So see, alcohol actually, alcohol level just kind of breaks the sleep and the snoring gets much louder. So people are aware that the night that they had a drink, the snoring is really loud. Then 100% that night is a separate bedroom.
or to the court next day. So, Doc, you tell us, how does Tibetan medicine help with sleep? Now that we're on this beautiful topic of sleep, do you think Tibetan medicine has a solution for sleep?
Yes, so basically in Tibetan medicine or Sowa Rigpa, so during the initial consultation, first basically we try to understand what is the typology of the person, because every person is very, very unique in their blueprint. So first it's very important to check the pulse, and then we do the urine diagnosis also. And after that, first we have to check whether what is the, more than the factor, we have to see what is the root cause. So what is the root cause that is causing the person the sleep issues like insomnia and sleep apnea. So during the consultation, we try to find the imbalance. So what is the imbalance in the person's body, speech and mind. And in the body, basically we try to check, we call it in Tibetan medicine, Rangshin. So Rangshin means what is your birth energy. So birth energy means the energy that we have inherited from our parents. So some people are very, very high and very elevated kind of wind disorder, we call it. Wind, or in Ayurveda they call it Vata. And in Tibetan medicine we call it Lung. Lung Rangshin. Lung Rangshin means a person who is really carrying a lot of wind portion in their body. So suppose if you need only 1 kilo of or 1 pound of wind in your body, but you may be carrying 2 pounds of wind in your body, the wind element or the proportion. So definitely the person, because of their body constituency, the person will be feeling a lot of sleep issues. Not only the sleep issues, a lot of psychological related issues also. So after understanding that, and also the dosha means nyepa. So in Tibetan medicine we call it nyepa. And in nyepa also, if the person is doing all those factors, now we are coming to the factors. The root cause is the body constituency or the typology, and the factors are the nyepa. Nyepa means what are the factors that is causing them for the sleep issues. So factors can be, maybe the person is taking a lot of bitter taste food. So bitter taste food like high caffeinated drinks, black coffee, black tea, and too much of green tea, even the bitter gourd vegetables, bitter melon. So these all can cause a lot of wind disorder in our body. And second is your behavior and your lifestyle. So the behavior and the lifestyle, yes, most of the part my colleague speaker has already mentioned, which contribute to the sleep issues. But in Tibetan medicine, there's a very unique behavior or lifestyle that one should avoid if you are having a lot of sleep issues. Especially after 3-4 p.m., you should really try to avoid engaging in all the activities or hobbies that include a lot of like strong mental tasking. Like if you are planning some for big meeting or if you need to make some big important decisions. So all these should be done before lunch ideally, or at least before 3 p.m. So after 4 p.m., if you do these kind of activities like challenging mental tasks, overthinking, planning, and even too much of giving speech, like if you have to make an important call, like for 1 hour, 2 hour, or if you have to conduct some meeting for half an hour, 1 hour, these all should be ideally done before lunch, or at least before 3 p.m. So if you do these all kinds of after 4 p.m., high mental tasks, high verbal speech, and also the physical tasks, like if you are a person who likes to go to gym or work out, like strength training, running, after 4 p.m., then definitely if you are a Vata personality, then the factor will also produce a lot of Vata or wind or lung in your body, so which can cause a lot of sleep issues in your, so during the night. So therefore in Tibetan medicine, we have very special herbs like Agar 35. Agar 35 means there are basically 35 different ingredients or medicinal herbs which are grown in high Himalayan altitude. So the main ingredients is the agar. So these kind of herbs are very good to make your sleep better. So basically we try to balance your wind or vata or lung disorder. So through that, definitely you'll be able to see a lot of changes and a benefit in your sleep quality and the sleep duration, the amount of deep sleep and the REM sleep. So that's it. Thank you.
So basically, you're saying we are all should be early risers. Finish all your tasks before 4 o'clock.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's what I'm
yes.
saying. Like rest your body. Like eat early. So like eating is another thing. So if you eat at 8 or 9, your body is going to take 3 hours to digest that food, or at least it takes much more. But at least the basic. If you sleep before that, your body's still working. How will you sleep? So I think it's just what we're all saying is try to get done with your body at a rested state as early as you can before you go to sleep.
And I have to add, honestly, it's as close as wake up with the sun and then retreat as the sun goes down. So try to get as close to sunrise and sunset.
So Nishi, I love the title of your book. I met God on the sofa. I mean, like, it talks about you are God and everything is in your mind. Tell us something, go more and deeper into that.
So I wrote this book, I think 12, 13 years ago. And I actually wrote it because there were a lot of things I had seen in my own life. I went through a paralysis issue due to a car crash. And, being told all the time that, you're not going to amount to anything, you're going to remain a vegetable. And, hearing all these negative words sort of put me into a sort of a backstage with myself. And I think I experienced, which a lot of people don't like to talk about, I experienced depression at the age of 18, which was very, very young. And I think more so it was, everyone else was out there and I was this young kid at 18 lying in a bed. And, it was, I think, just a switch of the mind at that point when I got tired and my mom running to every astrologer possible asking, kya hoega? And they'd be like, kuch nahi hoega, she's going to remain like this. And it was a switch in my mind. I said, no, I'm not going to accept this. It was just that switch. And that switch created waves. Today there's so much about it. I'm 55 today. I'm talking about 37 years ago. And, we didn't have so much information on the mind and how the mind works. There's so much today. And I still remember at that time, I sat and I said, I actually sat on the sofa. I said, I'm not going to remain like this. I am going to work on myself.
And you met God on that sofa.
And the moment, that's what I'm now, there's so many books written on this. Now, the moment I made that switch, doorways started opening suddenly out of nowhere, and I was in London at that time. Out of nowhere, someone would say, oh, I can help you. I teach a little bit of yoga. Now, yoga was dead 37 years ago. No one talked about yoga at that time. And, it was like, we're going to teach you, we'll help you. We'll 6-7 asanas. And I actually worked on myself. Through her, I met my first mentor. And, she said, Nishi, strengthen your mind, talk to your mind. And this all happened sitting on a sofa for me. And that's exactly what my book is about today. And through that, this book, I've given examples of kids who've come to me, with issues, not being able to deal with life. And, I've told them, it's all in your mind. There's no God out there. Work with yourself. It's in your mind. And this is something I'd like to tell all of you. We all battle so many things every day which we can't talk to anyone. We all keep it inside. Now you're sitting with such an enriched panel here, and they're all telling you to come out with yourself, beat the stress. And let me tell you, no matter how much we tell ourselves we're going to do it, there will still be something we'll hold inside ourselves. And that little something will keep eating you and eating you. The way to combat this, talk to your mind. Talk to yourself. The more you talk to yourself, never suppress anything. Suppression today, emotional, mental, is one of the biggest factors contributing to so many diseases, including cancer. You see? So, your mind is your God. That's what my whole book is about. And that can take you places.
That's simply amazing. So, Gaurav, how do you think mental wellness can be? How does Gabit help with mental wellness?
So as I said, I think all of these pillars are interconnected. And meditation is nothing but the exercise of the mind. We work out in a gym for our physical body, but I think meditation is just that. And if you actually sleep well, your mind will be at peace. If you work out, a lot of people actually think workout is meditative for them. Right? When you actually hit the gym, they feel like that's the zone that they actually disengage with everything else around them, and they're able to do what they do. Nutrition also does that. Like, what you eat actually definitely has an impact on what your thoughts are, how you think about things. I say this always: pick up a habit that you can follow for life. Don't pick up anything extreme just because you met someone right now, you heard a new fad that you'll drop in 2 weeks. It's not going to serve you. You're going to go through frustration of doing it and then dropping it, and I think that adds to your stress as well. So, and if we just do that, I think I'll share an example. We were talking about sleep and all that. I realized that if I just eat food at, like, a lot of people talk about like time restricted eating. Some people say like 16 hours, 18 hours, 20 hours, 1 meal a day, and all of us like, I also want to do this. Yeah, intermittent, it's the same different word, but you have to find out what works for you. Yeah, what works for you. And just an example of that would be, I figured that if I just eat around 5:30 or 6 in the evening, I feel much better. And I think I can do that. I can't eat at like 3 and just stop my day. I just can't. And I've done this for the last 3 months now, and it's changed my sleep completely. It has changed how I feel in the evening, how I get up in the morning. I'm so rested. I'm very fresh in the morning. So I think so what I'm trying to say is, anything that you pick up as a good habit or a habit and you follow it, it adds to a lot of peace, confidence, mental wellness. And I think we should just like try to do what works for us. What works for us, somebody else might not work for us, and try to do something which you can follow for life. That's what I would say.
Yeah. So, my question is to you, Anshuka. When is too late to start yoga?
It's never too late. It's never too late. And
So, tell us more about as you age, what is the different yogas that you should do, or is there no limit to what you can do? I think we saw it yesterday with Mr. Tripath.
those
It's
insane
never too
push-ups.
late.
You're right. Yes.
But yeah,
No, I'm going to add to what Gaurav said. I think bio-individuality is so important. No two bodies are the same. No two minds are the same. Obviously, no two humans are going through a particular situation at the same time, right? So it also sort of, it's an extension to your physical practice and your emotional practice. So firstly, my youngest student is 2.5 years old, and my oldest was 87 with my grandmom, who's no more.
Wow.
So it is, and sometimes we had her doing advanced asanas as well, right? So it's really about how much you can move with your body. And I know a lot of people believe in perfection, number one, then it was progress over perfection. And I don't believe that at all. I think it's being present over it all. So whether it was my grandmom being mindful for those 10 minutes of the day, or maybe sometimes more, that was more than being 16 and maybe looking at a candle, which is your Tratak meditation for 30 minutes and you're not being present. So there is no right age. What I can say is that I see a lot of fear of failure and judgment. When somebody walks into a class, I notice that they're constantly looking at others if it's a group class, or when it's an individual class, they prefer that and they share more. So work with what works for you. You have to talk to yourself. You are your best friend, and sometimes I think that you are your best doctor. So after every class of mine, I make everybody give themselves a hug. And literally, guys, all of you, let's hug ourselves right now. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. I don't see anybody hugging. Okay, I say that. Tight hugs, and remind yourself that you love yourself. You have to start from there. So no matter how old you are, all you need is a yoga mat, sometimes not even that, and just begin.
Wow. So Gaurav, how is AI contributing to the health revolution?
Okay, wonderful. Love it. So AI, so I'll give you an example, and I'll just illustrate from that example as to what it can do for you. So in our wearable, when we put all the data, people were like, what is this data? How do I make sense of it? What does it mean? And then we actually created something called, or not something, someone called PEP. PEP is an AI health coach on our ring, which actually talks to you. It looks at your data and it just tells you what is screwing up what, or what is helping what. For example, I ask questions to PEP saying, what is the correlation between my workout schedule or my fitness and my sleep? And it'll give me a very, very smart answer that I don't think I can give to myself even when I looked at the data. And I think what I'm trying to tell you is that now there is someone, AI, think of it, AI as something very intelligent, something which has knowledge of the world, something which can think much faster than we can think, and they're trying to help you. So we're very big on tracking. So I'll extend the example. We're very big on tracking. As I said, we want people to measure themselves and improve themselves. So we got the smart ring. And my next goal is to beat this medical ring that we have next to us. I got to know of this today, and I can bet you that next year she'll be actually using ours and not this one for sleep apnea. And I think we just want to make it sure that it helps people. So you have this. Then we have got our smart scale. So this gives you all your heart related data. Then the smart scale gives you a body composition, fat percentage of your body, muscle mass in your body. Weight is not the most important thing. Fat in your body is the most important thing. We don't know that. Then we also have something for glucose monitoring. It's called CGM, continuous glucose monitoring. The current version I'm not very bullish on, to be honest, because it's damn expensive and many people can't afford it. We're working on something which will be more affordable, but still you have a start. So especially for diabetic and pre-diabetic folks, you can track your glucose real time on an app. It's very useful. And then we're just launching blood work next week. So you can get your blood work done for heart health, metabolic health, hormonal health, skin health. It'll actually tell you whether you're preconditioned right now to actually lose weight or not metabolically. Wow. Yeah? Brain health. That's another one we'll add.
Wow.
Yeah? Can I change my ring? Why do you want to change your ring? Blood works. Oh, okay, of course. So now imagine if you did all of this for yourself just to understand your body. But the next question that you will have is, what do I do with all this data? I'm not a doctor. By the way, I don't know of many people who can understand this data and tell you anything meaningful. But PEP will be able to look at all this data and tell you whether your sleep is getting screwed because of your glucose or because of your fat percentage or something that you did not do right, let's say day before or something like that, right? And I am saying we will take this to the next level where we will say, I want to make sure that you understand what it can do in terms of predictive health. So I want to tell you tomorrow, like in the future, that let's say if you're going to fall sick tomorrow, you'll get a notification today that take care, eat better, that you're going to fall sick tomorrow. Or I can tell you, you're going to have a stroke in, let's say, 3 to 6 months' time, go see a doctor. Yeah, we don't get those signals today because we don't know how to measure it. And by the way, you don't have to call anyone to do that. You have it on your finger. It'll tell you automatically. That is what AI can do. I'll give you another example. How many people know what is calorie balance or what is calorie deficit or surplus? How many people understand that concept? Okay, so let me tell you this. We all take in calories when we eat. We all expend calories. Do you know we expend calories when we sleep? Yeah. Okay, we know. That's great. So we expend calories all the time. And calorie balance is net day in the day Were you surplus or deficit? If you're trying to lose weight, you have to be deficit, right? And if you're actually trying to gain weight, you have to be surplus. If you're trying to maintain, you have to be normal. It is such an important thing. There is no variable in the world that does that. And I was like, why? So we built a feature called calorie balance. And I'll tell you how we used AI to make it simpler, because otherwise that's why it's not getting used. So the ring gives you a full calorie out because you have it 24 hours. You don't need to take it off. But then we used AI. Has anybody tried logging food in general in any app? Do you log food? How do you log food? You write it? How painful is that? How painful? Exactly. It's so painful that you don't do it. So we said that doesn't make sense. So we used AI to build a voice-based food log. So I log my food by saying 3 eggs this morning, rajma in lunch, and 1 chicken salad for dinner. And guess what? It logs my food. That's it.
Is
Done.
that all you eat?
Huh?
Is that all you
that's
eat?
all I eat. Yeah, that's
Oh my God, that's why you look like this. So guys, I know this topic can go on and on, but I have two people on this panel who have Mumbai flights to catch, and I don't want them to miss it. So I'm just going to open it up for quick questions. If anybody has 2 or 3 questions, that's it, because I need to let them catch their flights. Does anybody have questions? Or, yeah, please.
I need to speak or do we? Okay, I'm loud enough. Thank
Oh
you.
yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, it's not a question exactly. I just want to add to something. Most of us here are currently well past our ages of 30 plus. So, I think we women should prioritize ourselves, which we don't. I'm not saying don't take care of the family. Do take care of the family. The other thing is you said that you should talk to yourself. I think the best way is to talk to yourself in the mirror, one, and do have friends with whom you can gossip. I'm very much for the word gossip, not bitchy gossip, but something that lightens your heart, and you can just be yourself. And I'm sure everybody will agree with me, though they will not on the surface of it. But because you can't do everything with your family, you're minding your P's and Q's. So, and the other thing, what you're talking about, the ring, which is telling us about our calories or something. Tell me, does your ring also do something which the COVID vaccine has played otherwise on our health? We can't fight the pharma company, we can't fight the government, but it is giving.
I think we
Heart
can't
attacks.
get into that discussion
No, does your
right
ring,
now.
Does your ring tell us that
That's
we are
that's a
heading
much
for heart
longer
attack?
topic.
Does your ring tell us that, okay, I'm heading for a heart attack? Okay, not because of, but okay, my body is heading
Not
to
yet, but I said we're building something where we
Okay.
can actually give you guidance. It's not medical advice, but give you guidance, please. There's something. So by the way, I'll tell you what. AFib, atrial fibrillation is a very common thing.
Yeah.
We will be able to actually ascertain that for you like next year with our ring. Right? So at least you will know. So I think those things we can do. I just want to make one comment. I think you talked about age, that most of us are 30 and above.
Yeah.
Stop talking about your chronological age. If you want to live longer, start measuring your metabolic age.
Yeah.
And please start,
Yes.
you should be celebrating birthdays where people should come and say, happy -1 year of birthday, happy -2 years of birthday.
Yeah.
I was metabolically, before COVID, I was metabolically 49 when I was 39. And I look like shit. I'm today 35 when I'm 43.
Ask us, you look 21.
Thank you
There
very
go.
much. You
You're
made my
getting
day.
some more proposals, Gaurav.
Yeah.
You're in demand.
No, I'm married, I have a 13-year-old
You're in
daughter.
huge demand.
No, but then that's what Gaurav is saying, and that's what we all must look at. The dialogue is, let's all try and die young as late as possible.
We don't have to
That's
die, by the
nice.
way. It's not necessary.
You don't have to die.
Yes, there are people working saying don't die. And by the way, like aging is a disease. Being sedentary is a disease. The single most thing proven in clinical papers, scientific papers, and Dr. Manvi can corroborate that, which has a direct impact on you living longer, is exercising. Everything else is movement. Literally, everything else. I'll give you an example. I love this example, which I found like 2 weeks back. Just,
You're happy to miss your flight, it
yes,
seems.
I'm happy to miss flight. I love this. Okay, sorry. What time is your flight? Okay.
I would love to carry on, but I know you guys.
So, okay, and this is very relevant because we don't. So my mom and my dad both use the ring. When I looked at the stats, my mom's stats were amazing, and my dad's weren't. And I'm like, how come? They eat the same food, they live the same lifestyle. Then I realized that my mom actually from 7 in the morning till 11 moves around for a lot of things, just starting and stopping the body, and her stats are fab. And that just told me that movement is the thing. So yeah, please move, don't sit.
Yeah, just now when he came, we had to come up to the first floor. I took the lift and he took the steps. So, well. Last question, guys. We really have only time for one question, so you can fire it out.
Hi. This is a question to the doctor who's on the sleeping this thing. I would like to know what is a natural way to cure sleep apnea? If you don't want to be on the device or, the
So
other
we will,
operation
if
surgery.
I might be here for a little while after that, it will be, no, device means the PAP. So it's, it's all, we can't give a, like one size fits all type of an answer. It depends upon the severity, it depends upon your facial structure, it depends upon your genes, it depends upon your habits. Like he said, we need to understand the patient in a complete profile before we say.
So maybe we can contact you.
Sorry?
We can contact you then in that
Yes,
case.
yes, sure.
Thank
sure.
you.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's a larger...
But I would do what Rishi said. Talk to your mind, talk to yourself, fix it. I don't think you need anything.
Hello, check.
Okay, thank you so much. And some of the... Okay, fine. Just last question, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. Gaurav, I want to know if you buy your ring, is it useful to us? And to the general audience, I want to ask one question. See, you said yoga has been there for very long. I joined yoga at the age of 15 in Keval Dham, Bombay. There's so much of yoga awareness in India. They show it on TV and everything. What is your USP for the yoga?
Yeah. What is your USP?
I think, like I spoke earlier, bio-individuality. If something is working for a person, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for someone else. And yoga is honestly the breath, mind, and body connection. It's not about getting into a headstand, and it's not about getting into an advanced asana. So I really work with each individual and I customize a certain practice for them. So that is really the EVP at Anshuka Yoga.
Great. So, thank you so much, my lovely panelists.
Thank
and we
you,
have
Parini.
something small for you.